Go into a juggernaut. Let's talk about a juggernaut album. One of the definitive albums that you already know has to shoot up into the top albums of the year. And if it didn't, like if it wasn't, it would be an absolute disappointment. And that's Roc Marciano's Marcielago. Of course, it's one of the best albums of the year. And I'll just start off with a quote. He says, "I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but I'm a stubborn mule. I refuse to coon for some effing views." And he said that on Tom Chambers, you know. And Marcielago is essentially a celebratory album, you know, for somebody for whom I've called the stylist of the era. In my book, I list him as that stylist of this invisible renaissance, and I give you reasons why. Not only there, but in pieces about certain works like "Behold the Dark Horse" and his album with DJ Muggs, "Chaos." I give you the examples and the reasons, some of the reasons why when I cover those albums. But this one is really like, yo, there's not as much experimentation as like the previous albums of last year. And it's more like in his wheelhouse. And that's why I say it's celebratory, because it's styles of production that he has developed exactly as the way you expect it. And the braggadocio, the stylistics, and you know, the you know, what I call the ejaculates he throws out at all you custies and hoes, are all there, you know, just as you expected, but done with precision. You know what I mean? And you know, and he really defines stuff that I can't disagree with. Like when he says on Joe Jackson, "I'm what the culture was missing. I'm a cult figure." And I don't know if hip hop was missing a cult figure or if it needs one, but he definitely is one in many respects. And just some thoughts, random thoughts on the album. I think immediately, like what was really openly progressive on the album, the way he used that high horn on Bomb Shelter and just focused on that. And I got to highlight, you know, I can't continue without highlighting an MC that really hasn't released that much work this year, but his work with Ito, the Heather Gray, and his own album that he had with Deuce, Willie the Kid is just really, really amazing to me. You know, on straight loops as this seems, you know, it's this album it's real nice to see, you know, in general that, you know, with Roc and with Willie, that you know, it's so nice to see that an MC can actually find a great pocket easily. You know what I mean? See, let me give you this. Roc Marciano is really hard to bite, because biters in this decade that have bitten him, they see the ease of looping. You know what I mean? What he's doing seems easy. It's just looping. And on some of the albums where he got sloppy, right? Like, and it comes off dope sloppy, like especially the first Rosebud's Revenge. But biters see the ease of the looping. So what gets lost is the difficulty after you achieve. You know, so you achieve finding a great loop to loop, a great dig to loop. You know what I mean? And then you think that, you know, what Roc doesn't do is that he doesn't use the ideal pocket in there, you know? He uses his own pocket. And he's got a chopped and phrase flow, so it's his flow that really is the production work, that's more chopped than the sample. So what do we praise about a hip hop production? The dig, the sample, and then the chopping of the sample. But if you listen to the way Roc Marciano raps, it's literally his voice and the way he goes into a different pocket he's always almost a different pocket than you expect. And definitely not the easy pocket. He rhymes chopped. You know what I mean? And it's almost like he's the sample. You know what I mean? It wasn't the loop of the music, it's his own voice. That's the actual sample that's being flipped here. You know what I mean? It's a real ingenious way to look at it, but it's the way I've been hearing it, you know? And with Willie the Kid, you know, the way he rhymes, I got to make some notes on it. Willie the Kid rhymes with like this layered style where like in this song where like every other 2 to 3 words are rhymed, and it's in unison with what Roc is doing, because it gives a chop flow effect. But Willie does it with a lot of smoothness. So he goes, I'm unfazed. I ain't blink yet. I'm unimpressed. A henchman. Tool for flinching. The crib like Benson. Cook bass on the Bunsen burner. You just a butler on the cusp of the house, nigga. A stool pigeon. And the way he rhymes those cuts, they're in a different flow and much more in the typical pocket than what Roc Marciano's doing. So it matches, but it's not. So not to get too how to rap, how to rap here, but the syllable matching is what Willie does so good. And he's usually giving you the syllable matching. It goes like to 4 to 8s and back to 4s. So dope. It's really dope. You know what I mean? I think Willie the Kid, he often releases works that are too short, and if he made some more at least 30-minute albums, we get to see him explore themes that match the massive talents and persona that he's giving off on these very short EPs and on these features that he has. The other guest on Marcielago, like Knowledge the Pirate, on that ill track switch on Tom Chambers, because Tom Chambers starts off good, but it really goes into another nice track as well. I've always thought, as on Knowledge, just like on Knowledge's his own album that came out this year, he's got a great command of the space and the music of the sample as well. His voice floods the rest of the track that's left empty. And that's hard to do. Most people can't do that. And as far as features, then there's can't mention anything without Ka, on Ephesians. To me, as I read from what I wrote for him, to me, I consider him the MC of this decade, and just quoting some of his bars is good enough. He says, "And our fields was no meals, just forks in the road." Come on, I'm gonna say that again. And our fields was no meals, just forks in the road. Then he goes like this. This is all in the same verse, one verse. Seems the team had good genes, but wanted better denim. Oh boy, that's like a two double entendres mixed together. This is dope. And then the ending bars, the way they end is just powerful. Was told as a youth, become a mute. If ever in custody, say nothing. Once you get aggravated with all that's fabricated, come F with me. And the way he tones it at the end is just perfect stuff. The rugged. Smooth, rugged, sinister, poetry, just poetry. And but where you really can explore this Marcielago is really through the music. And musically, nothing surprises because, as I said, his style of production is constantly bitten. Marciano's music is in this solo career that begins with Mark Berg is really evolutionary to begin with, not revolutionary. RZA, Bronze, and even Kanye, I gotta give Kanye credit, explored the soul in these isolated ways already, where you're isolating soul vocals, where that is the prime aspect of what's being highlighted. They're the ones that really did this to the highest degree throughout the 2000s. And however, the extreme version, the complete isolation of that soul sample, is really the evolution of innovation that Roc gives you. So unlike Rosebud's Revenge, a great LP with great digs and MCing too, but where the great samples sometimes drown his and other guest vocals, like I felt like in Rosebud's Revenge, I really loved the album, but vocals were almost drowned sometimes. You know what I mean? And with Marcielago, the real development is that you don't get any of these problems. There's no drowning out. The equalizing, the pitches, everything is perfect. And what's interesting is that the cadence of Roc's flow is something I have to accustom myself to a lot of times when I hear it, though, after a long time, because he had a mixtape early this year with Alchemist, and that was decent. Then he had the prequel, which was 6 songs, which are very good, and then there was nothing from him. And because there's so much to listen to, repeating isn't done as often as you would like with any record now. It doesn't matter. If you're really trying to cover this music, you're struggling to get proper repeats, and your first and second and third listens have to be real quality, you know. And what I really like in this Marcielago is that Roc isn't really slowing down his flow, you know, which is really, actually, when you think about it, how the influence rappers from Marciano, the rappers that are influenced by Roc Marciano, they actually slow down their flows to actually catch a pocket in the type of production that he's making when they bite it. So when they're influenced or when they're biting Roc Marciano, they actually have to slow down their tempo. Whereas Roc Marciano, he's so comfortable in the off pocket that he makes in these samples. He's not really slowing down the energy levels, you know. And if you really think about it, I find that really, really surprising. And listen to it again. You know what I mean? It'll lead him to really let him to do things like letting him drop a long bar, and then give it an extended pause after, as he does. If you listen to they got a video for that song already, Richard Gere. If you listen to Richard Gere, watch the video for Richard Gere, and really focus on the bars, you can hear him take longer than expected pauses for you to hear the punchline, to revel in it, and it becomes, you know what I'm saying, those ejaculates, like he's just like put, you know, spitting them out, and let him sit there for the custies and hoes that he's rapping to, you know. And that's something that highlights the lines and lets him revel in the success of his endeavors, literally. You know what I mean? And again, this is really a self-acknowledgement record for all he's done this decade, you know? And it's done powerfully. For me, Roc Marciano is a top 5 essential MC of this invisible renaissance, this 2010s. And I personally think if you're a collector of this era, you need to have at least Reloaded, which I still think is his signature work. You have to have Mark Berg, what set it off. You should have Rosebud's Revenge 1 and 2. I think you should have Behold the Dark Horse and Chaos, because because those are the albums where he really experiments. And those are the albums you're going to look to and say what he led into. And you should have this one because it closes it out this decade. I'm not even mentioning others that are good. You know what I mean? Like Marcy Boku and others. What is it? Pimp Power Strikes Back, something like that. But 6. Let me see. 1, 2. Reloaded, Mark Berg, Rosebud's Revenge 2, Behold the Dark Horse, Chaos, and then Marcielago. Those God albums you should have. You know what I mean? Now get to work if you don't have them, though.